Yo, what's going on, guys? March Madness is here, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's video. I'm going to be talking about the bracket, my picks, who I've got to win. And so just a couple of hours ago, the bracket was officially set, and so I filled out my bracket here. I've got two of them. This one's blank. This one has all my picks. I'll put this one up on the screen, so I'll put a picture of it up on the screen so you guys can see it a little bit as I'm talking. But I'm going to be talking my way through these picks here. So first off, in the knockout stages right at the beginning, I've got New Orleans over Mount St. Mary's. Then I've got Wake Forest over Kansas State. Wake Forest has been playing pretty well recently, and I just think with the momentum they've got, they'll carry through. Same way with UC Davis. I don't know too much about North Carolina Central. I assume that's what it is. That's how little I know about them. But UC Davis, having just won the Mountain West tournament, I think it was, they've got a lot of momentum. First appearance in school history, so that's pretty cool. And then between USC and Providence, I've got USC. Partially because I'm just kind of biased towards USC. I want them to win, and they have a better record. The Pac-12 is still a pretty tough conference, so I'm picking them in there. So in the first round, I've got Villanova over New Orleans. Then I've got Wisconsin over Virginia Tech. Florida over Eastern Tennessee State, same situation. Then I've got Virginia over UNC Wilmington. SMU over USC for me. SMU is a tough team. And then I've got Baylor over New Mexico State. Baylor used to be ranked number 1. They're a super strong team. You'll see how far I have them going. And then I've got South Carolina over Marquette, and this is one of those games that could be really close. Marquette is a good team. They're carrying some momentum with them. And then I've got Duke over Troy, which is kind of an obvious pick. Well, I mean, in March Madness, nothing's really obvious, but. And then Gonzaga over South Dakota State. Northwestern over Vanderbilt. That could be a close game. Northwestern, they've got a lot of momentum with them right now, so that's the only reason why I picked Northwestern. First appearance in school history, I think. And then Notre Dame over Princeton for me. This one was interesting because Princeton is a tough team. They just won the Ivy League championship, and they are a tough team, although Notre Dame is just a big school. That's why I picked them to win. West Virginia over Bucknell. Maryland over Xavier. And Florida State over Florida Gulf Coast. And then I've got VCU upsetting St. Mary's. I do not believe in St. Mary's. I'm sorry. I don't think they're a big enough school. So I got VCU over them. And then Arizona over North Dakota. And then starting up here in the Kansas part, I've got Kansas over UC Davis. Miami over Michigan State. Iowa State, who has been playing extremely good basketball recently. That's why I picked them. I mean, not only over Nevada, but you'll see. Iowa State over Nevada for me, and then Purdue over Vermont. And then this one's kind of interesting. I picked Rhode Island over Creighton.
What?
Creighton doesn't really perform that well in March Madness, and Rhode Island is carrying a lot of momentum with them. I think they just won whatever conference they're in. I think they just won that one by a good amount. So I'm actually picking them to go over Creighton. And then Oregon over Iona. Michigan over Oklahoma State. Michigan has a lot of momentum. They were the first 8th seed, I think, to win the Big Ten, which is pretty crazy. And then Louisville over Jacksonville State. North Carolina over Texas Southern. Arkansas over Seton Hall. Arkansas, I mean, while Kentucky beat them today in their conference championship, Arkansas played well. So that's why I've got Arkansas over Seton Hall. Minnesota over Middle Tennessee. Butler over Winthrop. And then this is another interesting pick. I've got Wake Forest beating Cincinnati.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So the 11th seed upsetting the 6th. And then UCLA over Kent State. I love UCLA. Shout out Lonzo Ball. Wichita State upsetting Dayton for me. And then Kentucky over Northern Kentucky. And so now we'll get into the second round here. So I've got Villanova beating Wisconsin. Virginia beating Florida. Baylor beating SMU. And Duke beating South Carolina. And then I've got Gonzaga over Northwestern, Notre Dame over West Virginia, Florida State over Maryland, and Arizona over VCU. And then I've got Kansas over Miami, Iowa State over Purdue, Oregon finishing off Rhode Island, they're done there, Louisville over Michigan, and then UNC over Arkansas, Butler over Minnesota, UCLA over Wake Forest, and Kentucky over Wichita State. And then into the Sweet 16 here, I've got Villanova beating Virginia, Duke beating Baylor, Gonzaga beating Notre Dame, and Arizona beating Florida State. Kansas beating Iowa State now, Oregon beating Louisville, so the 3 beating the 2, North Carolina beating Butler, and then Kentucky beating UCLA. And so my Elite 8 is Villanova, Duke, Gonzaga, Arizona, Kansas, Oregon, North Carolina, and Kentucky. So it's not, any huge surprises in there. And so I've got Duke upsetting Villanova.
I'm out, man. That nigga's tripping.
And heading to the Final Four. I've got Arizona upsetting Gonzaga and heading to the Final Four. And then I have Kansas beating out Oregon heading to the Final Four. And Kentucky upsetting UNC. Kentucky just has too much firepower for me. Malik Monk is just a beast. De'Aaron Fox, just a beast. So my Final Four now consists of Duke, Arizona, Kansas, and Kentucky. And so I've got Duke beating out Arizona to make it to the championship. And I've got Kentucky beating out Kansas, making it to the championship. So then my championship matchup is Duke versus Kentucky. And this would be a super interesting game. 2 powerhouse teams going at it in the championship. I'd find this game so interesting to watch. And then my pick between these 2 teams would be Kentucky to beat Duke and Kentucky win the national championship. And I think I don't have it written down here. I can write it down real quick. My final score prediction, just for shits and giggles, will be 68 for Kentucky to 66. And that is my bracket right there, finished. So we'll see how I do. I'm not a huge college basketball buff. I mostly stick to the NBA and stuff, but I love March Madness, super intense, and I'm stoked for this. So let's go Wildcats.